In the heart of an ancient forest, nestled high in the branches of a towering oak tree, lived a family of squirrels. The youngest of them, Theo, was a lively little squirrel with a spark of determination in his eyes. While his siblings spent their days playing and gathering nuts, Theo often dreamed of adventures far beyond the safety of their tree. Little did he know that fate would soon thrust him into a journey unlike any other. One fateful morning, the sky turned an eerie shade of gray. The winds howled, shaking the treetops, and the animals of the forest sensed something was wrong. A powerful storm was brewing, unlike any they had ever seen. The rain came in torrents, and soon the once tranquil river that meandered through the forest swelled with a ferocious current. As lightning illuminated the skies, a deafening crack echoed through the woods. A massive branch from Theo's family tree splintered and fell, leaving their nest precariously balanced and exposed. Theo's mother was the first to notice the danger. "We can't stay here," she cried, her voice barely audible over the storm. "Our tree could collapse at any moment." As Theo's family huddled together, panic etched across their faces. It became clear that someone needed to find help. The larger animals of the forest, those who could aid in repairing their home or offer temporary shelter, lived beyond the river and over the towering mountains. Theo, small but courageous, stepped forward. "I'll go," he declared, his voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside him. His mother hesitated, but the resolve in Theo's eyes left no room for doubt. "Be careful, my brave one," she whispered, nuzzling him before he set off into the storm. The first challenge lay just ahead. The usually calm river had turned into a raging torrent, its waters churning with debris from the forest. Theo reached the muddy bank and stared at the rushing water. The sight was terrifying, but the thought of his family spurred him forward. He noticed a series of rocks jutting out from the surface, forming a precarious path across the river. Without hesitation, Theo leapt onto the first rock, then the second, his tiny paws slipping against the wet surfaces. Midway across, a powerful wave crashed against the rocks, sending him into the icy water. Theo fought desperately against the current, his claws scraping for purchase on anything solid. With a final burst of energy, he clawed his way onto the far bank, gasping for breath. Drenched and exhausted, Theo pressed on. The mountains loomed in the distance, their jagged peaks shrouded in mist. The path up the mountain was steep and treacherous, littered with loose rocks and slippery patches. As Theo climbed, the rain turned to snow, and the air grew colder. Each step was a struggle, but the thought of his family gave him strength. Halfway up the mountain, a landslide thundered down the slope, forcing Theo to dive behind a large boulder. The rocks roared past, leaving the trail unstable and more dangerous than before. Shivering and hungry, Theo continued his ascent, his paws numb from the icy ground. Near the summit, Theo stumbled upon a small cave. Inside, he found a wise old bear, his fur dusted with snow. The bear watched as Theo staggered in, his small frame trembling. "You've come far, little one," the bear rumbled, his voice kind but firm. "What brings you to this harsh place?" Theo explained his journey, and the bear nodded solemnly. "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Remember that as you continue." The bear offered Theo a few berries and allowed him to rest briefly before he resumed his journey. Descending the mountain was no easier than climbing it. The snow gave way to slippery mud, and Theo's paws struggled to find stable footing. As he reached the forest at the mountain's base, a new danger emerged. A pair of glowing eyes appeared in the shadows, followed by the sleek, menacing form of a wolf. Theo froze, his heart pounding. The wolf growled, its sharp teeth glinting in the dim light. Theo knew he couldn't outrun the wolf on open ground. Instead, he darted into the trees, weaving between trunks and leaping over roots. The wolf chased him relentlessly, its snarls growing louder. Theo's quick thinking saved him. He led the wolf into a thicket of thorny bushes where it became entangled, giving Theo just enough time to escape. As dawn broke, Theo finally neared his family's tree. Relief flooded his chest, but his journey was not yet over. A red fox circled the damaged tree, its sharp eyes fixed on Theo's siblings, who huddled together in fear. Theo's parents stood protectively in front of them, but the fox was clearly waiting for an opportunity to strike. Theo knew he had to act quickly. He picked up a small rock and hurled it at the fox, hitting its side. The fox snarled and turned toward him. "Over here!" Theo shouted, his tail flicking as he drew the predator away. The fox lunged at him, but Theo led it toward the riverbank. Leaping onto a low-hanging branch over the water, Theo taunted the fox into following. When the fox leapt onto the same branch, it snapped under the weight, sending the predator plunging into the river. The current carried it away, and Theo climbed back to safety. Finally, Theo returned to his family. They rushed to him, their faces filled with relief and gratitude. His mother embraced him tightly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You saved us, Theo," she whispered. "Your bravery has given us a second chance." News of Theo's heroic journey spread throughout the forest. Animals from far and wide came to hear his tale, inspired by his determination and courage. Together, they helped rebuild his family's home, making it stronger and safer than before. The once damaged tree now stood as a symbol of resilience and unity. On a quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Theo sat on a high branch, looking out over the peaceful forest. His adventure had changed him, but his love for his family remained the same. Theo, the brave little squirrel, had proven that even the smallest among us can achieve great things when driven by love and courage. Theo's first challenge came swiftly. The river, now a torrent, roared menacingly. Logs and debris swept past with terrifying speed. Theo stood on the muddy bank, his heart pounding. Spotting a series of jagged rocks poking through the surface, he realized this was his only chance to cross. Theo leapt onto the first rock, then the second, each jump more precarious than the last. Rain blinded him, and the rocks were slick, but he pressed on. Suddenly, a misstep sent him tumbling into the icy current. Panic gripped him as he struggled against the raging water, but Theo's determination burned brighter. With a desperate effort, he grabbed onto a vine dangling from an overhanging branch and pulled himself to safety on the opposite bank. Drenched and shivering, Theo caught his breath. The storm's fury showed no signs of easing, but he couldn't turn back. His family was counting on him. The path ahead led to the forest's edge and up into the mountains. The peaks loomed ahead, shrouded in mist. Theo's paws sank into the muddy trail as he began his ascent. The climb was grueling, and the thin air bit at his lungs. Midway up, a rumble shook the ground. Theo froze as rocks tumbled down the slope, a landslide triggered by the storm. Darting for cover, he pressed himself against a large boulder and waited as the debris thundered past. When the rumbling ceased, Theo cautiously continued, his body trembling with fatigue. Near the summit, snow began to fall, and the trail disappeared under a thick white blanket. Theo's tiny frame shivered violently, but he pushed onward. His determination carried him to a small cave where he sought temporary shelter. Inside, he encountered an old, weathered bear who eyed him curiously. "What brings you here, little one?" the bear asked in a deep, rumbling voice. Theo explained his plight, and the bear nodded solemnly. "Courage comes in all sizes," the bear said. "Rest here a while and take this for strength." The bear offered Theo a handful of berries. After a brief rest, Theo thanked the bear and resumed his journey. Theo returned to his family, his body battered but his spirit triumphant. His siblings cheered, and his parents embraced him tightly. "You saved us, Theo," his mother said, her voice thick with emotion. "You've shown more courage than any of us could have imagined." News of Theo's bravery spread throughout the forest. Animals from far and wide came to hear the tale of the little squirrel who faced rivers, mountains, and predators to save his family. Together, the forest animals helped rebuild Theo's family's tree, making it stronger than ever. As the days passed, Theo's adventure became a legend, a story told to inspire courage in the hearts of all who heard it. Theo himself never sought the attention or accolades. For him, the greatest reward was knowing his family was safe and sound. Sitting atop the highest branch of their newly rebuilt home, Theo gazed out at the peaceful forest. The storm had passed, and the sun bathed the treetops in golden light. He had proven that even the smallest among us could achieve great things with love and determination. And so, Theo's tale became etched into the fabric of the forest's history, a reminder that bravery knows no bounds and that even the tiniest creatures can make the biggest difference.